Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
We are ready.
AccuWeather, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Bernie Rayner with AccuWeather. How do you hear me?
We hear you loud and clear. How us?
All right, loud and clear. You look and sound fantastic. Joining us from the International Space Center are NASA astronauts Mike Barratt and Tracy C. Dyson. Thank you for taking your time, Mike and Tracy. Both of you are on board the ISIS as part of Expedition 71. Mike, can you describe this mission and your role as pilot?
Well, it's a good question. My role as pilot was on the Dragon, the little spaceship that brought us up here with the crew 8. And my role was really to back up the commander and to be ready to take control of the vehicle if need be, which unfortunately, from my standpoint, did not arise. We had a great ride up here. It's a great little spaceship. But that was our commute to work. And really, the focus of our mission is here on the ISS. And over a period of about 6 months to conduct the research, the tasks before us, to maintain the station, upgrade it, and to do a few spacewalks. So it's a very multimedia-packed mission, if you will, from the rocket ride up here and descent at the end to the 6 months of hard work and just amazing science in the middle.
And Tracy, what is your role in the mission?
Well, like the rest, I'm what is called a flight engineer, and my job is to help maintain the space station and to help set up and run experiments, to talk to the public, to do some of the more critical dynamic operations like capture vehicles that come up, cargo ships with the robotic arm, as well as do spacewalks, just a whole host of things.
And Mike, how many other people are on the ISS? How would you each describe daily life on the International Space Station?
Well, right now we're sort of in our normal crewing mode. So there's 7 souls up here. There are 3 Russian cosmonauts and 4 American astronauts. And there are sort of territories, if you will. There's Russian modules and U.S. modules, Japanese, European, Italian. And it really is an international station with an integrated crew, which we really enjoy quite well. All of us are here really for the same reason. And life on board is kind of a mix. There's a bit of a routine, and about when we go to bed, we get up, we try to do our exercise for a couple hours plus every day to maintain our bones and muscles. But the science and the jobs change every day. So today I started my day with about 2.5 hours of doing human body science, doing scans, ultrasound scans with investigators on the ground, both in Europe and in Canada. Both of these are folks I knew in the space medical community, so it was really quite a delight for me. Characterizing how the body changes in space with this imagery is one of the great experiments that we get to do up here. And I just finished testing an emergency breathing mask and oxygen tank, so you never know quite what you're going to do.
And Tracy, you've been in space on 3 missions now for more than 200 days. Have you developed a daily routine?
Well, like Mike said, our days are pretty set for us during the work week, where we get up. We have a meeting with the control centers around the world that start our day, and then we have a whole series of activities. And then in the middle there, like Mike said, we work out to maintain our bone mass, our muscle mass, our flexibility, those kinds of things. And then we finish off the afternoon with a whole host of different tasks, ranging from maintenance of the station to science on board to other operations, proficiencies, and things like that. And then we end with another conference with our teams on the ground, and then we get ready for the evening, having dinner together, getting ready for sleep, and any kind of relaxing that we can do.
And Mike, we have to ask, what led you to become an astronaut?
Well, I think my story is similar to many hundreds who've gone before me, and certainly my office mates. I think, like everyone, I'm fueled by curiosity, and I had a lot of varying interests. I really loved astronomy. I loved flying. I loved oceanography. I loved photography. I got a degree in marine zoology. I went to medical school. And if you were to look for a place that puts all of those together, it's NASA. It's human spaceflight. And I think that's a common story with all of our folks in the office. It's an amazing slice of humanity that's just fueled by curiosity and just loving to learn new things at the same time and bringing a lot of diverse interests to the table. They all intersect with human spaceflight. So I followed a path of basic science, medicine eventually, private flight, and then eventually went into space medicine. And you can only do that in a very few places in the world. One of them is the NASA Johnson Space Center, and I was able to make the leap to the astronaut corps from there.
And Tracy, same question. What events led to you working in space?
Well, my inspiration came when I was in high school, and the world was excited about something NASA was doing, and that was putting a teacher in space. And before then, I really hadn't thought much about what astronauts were, what they were doing, mainly because I wasn't around test pilots much in the military. So when a teacher was selected to go into space, it got my attention because most of my days in my life was spent with teachers. Teachers were the people who ushered me through school, as well as coached me in sports and counseled me. And so when a teacher became an astronaut, it really inspired me to look into NASA and what they were doing. And it happened to be that they were working on building the space station. At the time, it was called Space Station Freedom. It was just the United States, but then it changed and became the International Space Station, where you had to have multiple countries working together, different cultures coming together, building a space station in space, and doing all the things that at the time in my life I enjoyed doing, working with tools, working with people, and just being physically fit and having that be a part of your job. And so things like that made me pursue the astronaut corps. And then when I was eligible, I submitted an application, and the rest then is just history.
Well, it certainly sounds like you have a lot of work to do up there, but we have to ask, what do you both do for some fun?
Well, we're chuckling about the things we're not going to tell you about. Well, one of which is playing with our food, which he was mentioning. You can't not play with your food up here, and we've learned that we can actually kind of hurl something along a trajectory and then go fetch it ourselves. That is just indicative of zero gravity. It's still so novel. I think I've now spent about 250-something days in space, and every day I learn something new and wonderful about zero gravity. It's magical. And frankly, any time you get to look out the window at this incredibly beautiful planet, that is just like amazing. That's one of our favorite pastimes. It always will be, and to capture the photographs we can. Otherwise, we listen to music. We make things that we can't make anywhere else. We enjoy sometimes calling people unexpectedly and try to convince them that, yes, we really are up on the space station. But really, the magic is here. It's just something to savor.
I'm throwing in a little wrinkle. I have to ask, do you sleep better in the space station, or do you sleep better at home?
We'll each answer that. It is a perception of myself and many that you keep a same level of alertness for a little bit less sleep up here, and that was certainly true on my first long flight. And once you kind of get back used to it again, you just start not going to feel the weight of your body on a bed or the weight of your head on a pillow. You're floating. After a little while, that just gets to be incredibly pleasant. And the funny thing is you don't really nod off, because nodding off is kind of dependent on gravity pulling your head down and kind of catching yourself. That doesn't happen. You just kind of drift to sleep. It's really quite wonderful. And I personally really enjoy my rack time. I'm going to let Tracy answer as well.
Yeah, what I notice is that like Mike was saying, I think you can sleep less with the same alertness up here. I sleep less, but I sleep deeper. I notice I go into a very deep sleep. I'm very comfortable, and as Jeanette, one of our other crewmates, had said, I heard her say that her dreams were more vivid, and I have to agree that it just seems like dreams become more vivid. At least that's been my experience. So.
Mike, you're a physician as well as an astronaut. Now, we have a viewer question. Tom from New York City has this question. What is the impact of space travel on the human body?
Well, I don't know if you can see my fingers, but this is the thickness of a textbook that I'm the senior author or editor on about space medicine. And let me just tell you that that's a really big question with a really big answer. Every system in the body changes, and it's really quite amazing how adaptable we are. You know, we start losing bone and muscle mass, which we try to counter with exercise, but we also lose some blood volume, we lose blood mass, we lose plasma volume, our lungs change shape, our heart changes shape, the diaphragm moves up, the organs move a little bit, the immune system changes, your sense of balance changes like crazy. So cardiovascular regulation, I mean, basically everything. And really, that's kind of my passion, is how we adapt to zero gravity. Most of them are very adaptive. Some of them are probably less friendly to the human body, but it shows the resilience, the plasticity of our bodies and how amazing we really are to challenge it and put it in an environment like this. And we still become really good workers, but we're now three-dimensional workers who can function in a very novel gravitational environment and bring the human capacity for creative thought and observation into bear. I mean, it's really an amazing thing. So that's a really short answer to a really big question. But I encourage people to go out and learn more about it.
And Tracy, you are also a chemist. What is your research focus, and what kind of experiments are you doing?
Well, I'm not doing any chemistry per se up here, but what I have been involved in are various studies that were developed on the ground. Spent a lot of time with biofabrication facility where they're printing actual tissues, samples of organs. And so my job is really just to help set up the experiments and to exchange samples and help basically take care of the facility. Various other experiments, like Mike was mentioning, we're human subjects for, and so we either attach electrodes and send signals, down to the ground so they can see what kind of changes there are in our body, but also donating samples to for later analysis, which also, by the way, utilizes some really interesting other facilities, like our minus 80 degree freezer. We've got some pretty hardy freezers up here on the space station to preserve all this science so that it could make it home for further analysis, which I think is just a testament to what a fantastic laboratory the space station is. It's fully equipped with not just novel science, but novel support for the science. Not to mention these gigantic solar arrays, which are generating a ton of power for running all of these facilities.
Mike and Tracy, we feature astronomy stories here at AccuWeather. Can you describe how the total solar eclipse on April 8th looked from the International Space Center station, I should say?
Sure, yeah, it was spectacular. I'll just start up front with that. Our focus was really on the shadow across the ground rather than looking up at the sun. Our big windows of observation are really pointing downwards at Earth, so that wasn't a view that was that good for us necessarily, but the shadow moving so quickly across the surface of the Earth just really reminds you that there's planetary neighbors out there and that the solar system is so much bigger than the Earth. It was really amazing to see this black, what I almost consider like a menacing shadow creeping over this beautiful blue and green and brown Earth surface at pretty high speed. We're actually faster than it. It was moving, depending on where it was on the Earth, a few hundred to over 1,000 miles an hour. We're going 17,000 miles an hour, so we overtook it, and we saw it best in eastern Canada. We were all crowded up in the cupola to watch it, all four of us, taking pictures, just kind of giving our verbal impressions to it as well. It was just really awe-inspiring to see.
Speaking of awe-inspiring, Tracy, I understand that you've been on 3 spacewalks totaling more than 22 hours. How would you describe those experiences?
In some regards, it's very surreal when you think about it, that you yourself become your own satellite and you are outside the space station in the harshest environment almost imaginable. And you're not only alive and functioning, but you're actually productive and doing something important for the space station. But on a professional level, it's one of the most rewarding and very challenging parts of our job. Any astronaut will tell you that we spend a lot of effort in our training throughout our career learning how to do a spacewalk. And when you actually get to go outside and do one, it's one of the most rewarding experiences in our field. And so when you're out there, you almost can't believe what you're doing. But also a testament to our training, the facility, the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, where we do our training, or the majority of it, has a replica of the space station underwater. And when we come out the hatch, it's definitely a different environment outside the space station, but the space station itself is very familiar to us as we translate around on handrails. We're seeing very familiar surroundings, and that also is a great comfort. But then when you get a very quiescent moment, which is also brief, out in a spacewalk, when you get to look at the beautiful planet and the stars, if the lights are down low, it can take your breath away, and it can also take your focus away. So we try to limit those moments so that we stay focused and on the timeline, but it can be some of the most memorable moments of your life.
And Mike, here at AccuWeather, we're interested in space weather. In your ISS environment without atmosphere, are there impacts from the changes in the sun's radiation?
Yeah, I mean, there certainly are. You know, I focus on the human element, of course, in my work. And one of the biggest things is that when we're above the Earth's atmosphere, we lose a lot of protection from the atmosphere that shields us from radiation. So I'm showing you a little radiation dosimeter that we all have to carry around continually. We're basically like radiation workers in a nuclear power plant or a hospital. So anytime you're using radiation at a higher dose than normal, you carry one of these, and we actually get quite a bit higher than in those industries that I mentioned. So that's one way we experience it. We accumulate it, and we always watch everybody. We monitor for the total dose. Bedtime is an interesting thing because some of us actually see little flashes of light at night, especially when your eyes are dark adapted. And this is due to high-energy charged particles that come in, mostly from galactic cosmic rays that basically hit retinal neurons and cause a little flash. Some don't see them. For some of us, I would say I'm one of those. It's a bit of a light show when you're trying to get to sleep. You know, again, we're always watching for the risk of that accumulated radiation on long-term health. And so we worry a little bit about risk of cancer or tissue damage in the cardiovascular system. But another big thing is just the effect on our equipment. A lot of our electronics are very sensitive to radiation, and that includes our cameras. Anything that has densely packed chips, basically, is going to be vulnerable to radiation and single event upsets where you might actually bit flip a switch or a signal input. So it's something we deal with every day, and it's just something really interesting to us. We also see a lot of great aurora up here.
Oh, I bet. All right, that'll wrap up our question and answer segment. I want to thank NASA astronauts Mike Barratt and Tracy C. Dyson for joining us from the International Space Station for an out-of-the-world conversation.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you to all participants. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.